In every generation, there is a chosen one. She alone will stand against the vampires, the demons, and the forces of darkness. She is the Slayer.
Well, hello, lucky viewer. I'm David Greenwalt. I'm the co-executive producer of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. You are the happy purchaser of Reptile Boy, an episode I wrote and directed in year 2 of Buffy. It was episode 5. We're inside Buffy's house, and we're supposed to think the kids are watching something pretty horrifying on TV. The kids being Sarah Michelle Gellar and Allison Hannigan and Nicholas Brendan, Buffy, Willow, and Xander respectively. In fact, what they are watching is some Indian soap operas. I made a lot of television in Vancouver where you see a lot of these Indian soap operas on TV, and I was just fascinated by them. So I really wanted to put one in Buffy. The story you're about to see involves Buffy not feeling she's being treated like a grown-up by all the adults in her life, and the terrible repercussions that happen when she tries to rebel against that authority. This little 3-shot you're looking at, I just really like this. The sweet kids eating popcorn, watching the Indian soap opera on TV, and again, this is sort of a theme of the show of contrasting the mundane with the frightening. This is a very talented stunt girl named Jennifer Badger who actually leapt off that balcony. And there is the talented actress who is actually playing the part. This is an old home in the Hollywood Hills. A lot of movies shoot there. Our challenge was to, in a single night, and we didn't really have all night. I think we had half a night to do this in, try to create a chase through some woods. So some of those woods are real and some of those woods are, we put up some posts. And then she leaps a wall and magically comes out in what Buffy fans will recognize as our very own backlot and graveyard. And these very scary, apparently occultists are after her. And later we'll come to realize they're something else entirely. This was early on in the show, and we did not have a lot of money. Not that we're just having oodles of money today. And the big challenge was how to make it exciting and adventuresome, well, on a dime, let's be honest, for cheap. And now we see he's a young, good-looking guy under that hood. And off they go, and that's the end of the teaser. Oh, now you have your exciting opening credits. And these are early opening credits from year 2. This is all stuff that Joss culled out of things we shot on the show. As years went by, we added obviously more and more credits to the show. Cute little Allison Hannigan when her hair was long. There's a little brief shot of Angel. There's lovely Cordelia, as played by Charisma Carpenter. Seen weekly, by the way, on her new show, Angel, created by yours truly and Joss Whedon. You'll notice how different Nicky looks with his hair on his forehead and his hair off his forehead. All right, here we are at beautiful Sunnydale High, and hardcore fans of 90210 will recognize it's actually Torrance High School. Here is just the wildly funny Charisma Carpenter playing Cordelia Chase and practicing her fake laugh that she's read about how to really listen to a man.
You dreamed about Angel again?
Here's Willow and Buffy walking down the hall. It's the real hall at the real school, not our set hall. Buffy confesses that she's had a dream about Angel. Of course, Willow thinks it's very, very romantic, but in fact what Buffy is telling us is, it can never really be with her and Angel. Him being a vampire and all, it's not going to work out too well.
You two are so right for each other. Except for the vampire thing. That doesn't make him a bad person, necessarily.
I'm brainsick. I can't have a relationship with him.
She's in her misery of, I'm half child, I'm half adult woman. People treat me like a child, Angel treats me like a kid, Giles treats me like a kid. And she's trying to decide whether she needs to break out. Oh, there's my credit. That's me. Whether she needs to break out in the world. Oh, 2 more credits! Oh my god, I'm credit-alicious. Meanwhile, Cordelia is expressing her interest in college people who are older and richer than high school losers. And this was the beginning of a little relationship. You know, she and Xander, and of course if you're listening to this insane thing, you're a hardcore fan, so you know that she and Xander went on to have a torrid romance after this. But what's really going on here is Cordelia is basically saying college guys are cool and high school guys suck. We're also reminding everybody that Cordelia would like to have absolutely nothing to do with Buffy, because soon she'll be wanting to have everything to do with her.
Oh, he won't be upset. There hasn't been much paranormal activity lately.
Just because
Giles is perturbed, doesn't think Buffy is studying hard enough and doing everything she should, and Buffy feels like people are treating her like a kid, and she feels she has too many responsibilities.
You skipped hand to hand entirely. Are you going to be prepared if a demon springs up behind you and does this?
He, of course, tries to show her that her reflexes have gone off, and she readily proves they have not. This was our library set, which, along with the rest of the school, blew up in the, I believe it was the end of year 3 or 4? Year 3. And we spent hours and hours and hours and hours in the set. It's a very lovely set, designed by Steve Hardy and built by Carrie Meyer, Carrie Meyer is now the production designer for all of Buffy, and also designed the first year of that hit spin-off Angel that I hope you're watching every week.
I think you don't know what it's like to be 16 and a girl and the Slayer.
We would shoot 8, 9, 10 pages a day. One of the things in a TV schedule is you have to have days that are huge in terms of page count, because particularly in an action show where you're out all night trying to get 2.5 pages of an action sequence. And this library stood us in good stead. We shot tons and tons of stuff in there. And it's Giles' little lair where he lives. And these days he still had his crappy old Citroen too. Finally in Buffy he got a new car.
Well, here's a hard fact of life. We all have to do things we don't like. And you have hand-to-hand this afternoon and patrol tonight, so I suggest you come straight here at the end of period 6 and you get your homework done. And don't dawdle with your
Here,
friends.
of course, is Sarah doing her marvelous pout, as really no one else can do. And Giles pretending that the pout isn't getting to him, but of course it is.
It's not getting to me.
Here we are having a little after-school fun. This is the Torrance High School. If I remember correctly, I think Xander would like to spend the evening watching some more Indian soap operas. Cordelia blows through and really wants nothing to do with them, but is excited to see some frat guys pulling up. And of course the big twist here is that frat guy behind the wheel is also crazy robed guy who apparently is, keeping that poor girl who you saw run away in the teaser, who by the way is played by Jordana Spiro, who's a really good actress, and this sort of modelly good-looking guy behind the wheel is a good actor named Greg Vaughn.
We're having a little get-together tomorrow night at the house, and it's going to be a really special evening.
This sequence, by the way, was shot all before lunch, and I went out there with my then assistant Robert Price and planned all this out in detail. Again, the hardcore fans will recognize that Robert Price went on to direct an Angel and will be directing another Angel in year 2.
She's more like a sister, really. We're that close.
Well, why don't you introduce us?
This is one of my favorite scenes because Cordelia at this point in the series just loathes Buffy and has to, in fact, go ask Buffy to come to the car because the other frat guy, who is a nice guy, wants to meet her.
Well, I don't really want to meet any fraternity boys.
And if there was a God, don't you think he'd keep it that way?
Charisma played this so great. I just loved the way she suffered so to get what she wanted. And I'm noticing the kids look different. It's been a few years.
She's such a little comedian.
What, she likes to play hard to get? No, Richard. I think you're playing easy to resist.
And here's a nice frat guy who will charm Buffy and convince her that he is an okay guy. And of course, Buffy is on the horns of, a dilemma. Do I try to pursue a hopeless romance with a 240-year-old vampire, or do I try to kind of be a normal person and have a normal life? And Nikki Brendan as Xander is, of course, predicting that she will walk away any minute and she will be so unimpressed with this guy. As usual, he is dead wrong. Nikki is unbelievably talented, and if you look at the body of work he's done as Xander, it's great, consistently funny. And in these early shows, he still had the big crush on Buffy and was hoping that something would happen between him and Buffy. And of course, which it never did, but stay tuned, folks. It just might.
Now? So, My friend invited your friend to a party we're having this weekend.
There's Charisma doing her stupid laugh because that's what she read in a magazine article. Buffy sees that this guy has a little more depth than she thought, and she's kind of willing to, take a little chance with him.
They're really dull parties full of really dull people, so...
Sarah works unbelievably hard in this show. We are now, as you are hearing this tape and watching episode from year 2, we are in fact shooting year 5 and have shot 88 episodes of Buffy. She's a pretty amazing actress. Joss designed the character based on all those crummy horror movies where the little blonde girl goes up an alley and is attacked by the scary thing. And Joss thought, wouldn't it be great to see a cheerleader type go up the alley and kick the living bejesus out of a scary thing?
It was nice to meet you.
Oh. Same here.
I hate these guys. Whatever they want just falls into their laps. Don't you hate these guys?
Yeah, with their charm lives and their movie star good looks and more money than you can count. I'm hating.
Now, Giles, who has been insisting Buffy having some more training, it warns her that he will not pull any punches. And of course, she immediately kicks the daylights out of him. The subtext here is that she's angry at him for pushing her so hard and not letting her do the things she wants to do. And she's about to make a bad teenage decision, which is she's about to say, I want to go to the frat party. But before she makes that bad teenage decision, she has to go patrolling. And this, in fact, is our little back lot here in Santa Monica, where we film an awful lot of Buffy, and we have 3 of our sound stages. We also built this little back lot, and of course, again, the hardcore viewer will recognize sometimes it's a park, sometimes it's a graveyard, sometimes there's mausoleums.
There's blood on it.
And of course, always there's Angel stepping out of the shadows. And he can smell the blood on the bracelet.
I can smell it.
He's her one true love, but a 240-year-old guy who can smell blood, it's probably not the big future there that there should be. And again, she feels like he's treating her like a kid, which in fact he is, but for her own good. I think our shows are better when the theme is very clear. The theme here is, of course, she feels like she's being treated like a kid, so she's going to make a bad decision and go to this frat party and lie to people and go to this frat party that she shouldn't. She will pay the price for that bad decision, but it's for good reason, because she's being mistreated. Angel is trying to do what's best for her, although he, loves her with all his great big vampire heart. He tells her in this scene that it's not some kind of fairy tale they're living, and she's not Sleeping Beauty, and when he kisses her, she won't just wake up and live happily ever after. And she said, I may say so, one of our better lines. She says, no, when you kiss me, I want to die. When Joss and I were talking about this scene, I pitched him that line, and he loved that line and thought it really belonged in the show. Boy, she played the heck out of it. They both did here. Joss and I were both here this night when we were shooting it. And of course, you have to remember, there are airplanes going over every 12 minutes, or sirens going by, or people yelling. People will drive by in their cars and yell. You see the lights and the police outside. David Boreanaz and Sarah Michelle Gellar giving their all, which is why David got his own show called Angel.
Buffy.
Now Charisma comes to Sarah and tries to butter her up to go to this party. And Buffy, because she is, a little heartsick with Angel and a little sick and tired of her life the way it is now, just suddenly says, yeah, I'll go with you to the darn party. And launches a series of events that do not lead to good ends.
I can't.
Now, Charisma Carpenter is a kind of a phenomenon as Cordelia Chase. And when Joss came to me and said, don't you think we ought to spin Angel off onto his own show? And by the way, is that something you'd like to create with me? I said, you betcha, hauntingly good-looking guy, or actually a guy who haunts me with your weird looks. And the next thing I said was we should take Cordelia to the show, because Angel is dark, broody guy, and Cordelia is bright, sunny, gigantic smile girl, and they are funny together. And he said, that's a terrific idea.
pledge my life.
And now we are in a set we built, which is supposed to be the basement of the frat house, where they are swearing in a new pledge. And we're kind of mixing wacky Satan-worshipping acolytes with what it means to be a fraternity pledge. Greg Vaughn there is carving some initials on this new pledge's chest, and he's taking his vows. And they worship a thing called Makita, which if you really stick with this for a long enough time, you'll see.
In blood I was baptized, in blood I shall reign.
One of the big challenges on Buffy and Angel is we got to make up these darn demon names all the time. And I thought I was so clever at making up this name, Makita. I thought that was a great word. And then I realized after we'd shot it and everything that the grips carry drills in their pockets that are made by Makita. Although I spelled Makita differently, but they're made by Makita. So in fact, I wasn't nearly as clever as I thought. And here we see the very talented Jordana Spiro playing Callie, who was captured, who ran away in the teaser and was captured, and now has been told that she probably really doesn't have that long to live, and her death isn't going to be that pleasant either. And she's captured by the bad guys. Of course, we also know these are the bad guys that Buffy now wants to go join and party with.
You're going to the fraternity party?
This was actually one of my first long Steadicam shots, and Sarah very graciously said she liked the way this shot started and ended. This was probably pretty early on in shooting. This may have been the first or second day of shooting this episode. Actually, that first little Steadicam pops into this long Steadicam shot. And the fun of a one long shot is you get a lot of material in one, and it feels kind of real, and you don't have to cut it up. The danger in episodic television is you invest several hours in trying to get a shot like this to work, and if it doesn't work, you're in trouble. And if it really doesn't work and you have to break it up and go into coverage, i.e. break it up into little tiny shots, it's a very bad thing. And here you see the actors doing a terrific job.
When he does, he treats me like I'm a child.
This very hallway in year one was only, I don't know, I'm going to say 60, 70 feet long. And as the show got more successful and as we expanded, that hallway is now 200 feet long. You can do a long, long walk and talk in that hallway now.
You know what I'm saying?
This is Giles by himself, which I really love him being busted. Little stuffy Giles, or big, handsome stuffy Giles, just practicing a little bit. But of course, the kids catch him in a private moment, which is always fun.
Will you be ready if a vampire's behind you?
We're back in our famed library. Buffy has found a bracelet with the letters ENT on it. It's broken in half and some blood, and of course she suspects more evil is afoot in Sunnydale. But she hopes she won't be sent out to have to solve said evil this very night because she wants to go to the frat party. Of course, Giles will ask her and expect her to do her duty.
I don't know what the rest of the letters might have spelled. And there's blood on it.
Oh, didn't see any?
Angel showed up. He could smell it.
The blood? There's a guy you want to party with.
Blood.
In Sunnydale.
She's about to do something she's never done before, which is lie to Giles and tell Giles that her mother is sick. She'll patrol a little bit, but then she needs to stay home with her mother.
Hello? She's standing right here, and she's not available.
Why not?
Buffy, this is a little more important.
I've got a mountain of homework to do. And, my mom's not really feeling well, and she could probably use my help.
Allison Hannigan, who to me embodies the soul of Willow, and see, look at her big eyes as she watches this lie go down. She just can't believe what she's hearing. She's such a wonderful creation, again, of Joss's. You know, if Buffy is the spunky cheerleader who learns how to have more depth and has to fight and save the world, Allison is the innocent poet and sweet girl who wears, in the beginning episode, she was wearing clothes from Sears, and they teased her about wearing the softer side of Sears. They being, of course, Cordelia Chase. And she's just so upset that Buffy has lied to Giles because it makes her whole world askew. She loves order in the world and thinks she can depend on. And Buffy is really, saying it's no big deal and it's time I grew up. And we're back in the long hall with lots and lots of extras. Again, for the absolute hardcore watcher of the show, you will notice that we had a lot of the same extras over several years. Wonderful. They're also called atmosphere, meaning they're the background atmosphere. And some of them are really terrific and have been on the show for years and really take their job very, very seriously. Now, yours truly, yakking away on this endless and somewhat infinite-seeming track, started as an extra and a stand-in before I decided I should try my hand at that writing and directing thing.
and laugh at the appropriate intervals. Do lie to your mom about where we're going. It's a fraternity, and there will be drinking.
Again, I gotta love Cordelia in this scene because she's telling Buffy when she goes to this party to just keep her mouth shut and don't speak unless she's spoken to do her best to wear a lot of makeup and hide in the dark. We see an early Buffy hairdo here, by the way. I'm saying that we haven't seen in a while.
Makeup. Well, give it your all and keep to the shadows. We're gonna have a blast.
And again, you see Sarah doing a great comedy take, whacking her head on the table. I'm almost positive this is the first Buffy I directed, and so it was the first time I was really on the floor directing Sarah, although obviously we worked closely on earlier shows. She really let herself go, and I think she felt secure enough that she would allow herself to whack her head on the table and, do the funny moments. One of the great things about the show is that it's so broad. There's so much. Now I'm talking about the series as a whole. There's so much in it, from the funny to the horrific to the sad to the normal to the paranormal. There's Cordelia whacking into the car in front of her. She just makes me laugh, which is why she's on Angel. And Sarah plays all of these various emotions to the hilt, and it's wonderful. Traditionally in television, and certainly in my personal experience, I was a movie writer, so I came to 1 hour TV, and 1 hour television in the old days was serious, and half-hour television was funny, and you didn't really mix the two. And for me, I always felt like I was getting kind of half a meal, and the great opportunity that Joss Whedon provided for me was a forum where you could do funny and serious and sad and ridiculous all mixed together, which kind of feels like life. Here, Buffy is not taking a drink of alcohol, still kind of trying to do the right thing, although she wants to be out and feel like a grown-up, but she has told a lie. But she's kind of holding on and doing the right thing here. This is the interior of that same house you saw in the opening teaser. This is a home in the Hollywood Hills that is actually not occupied and is mostly rented out to movies, and they have beautiful grounds and stuff. This is a sequence that was laboriously plotted out by myself and my assistant Robert Price, who, if you saw the Angel episode, I've Got You Under My Skin, you will notice that Robert Price graduated from being my assistant to being a very talented television director. Every shot in this sequence was planned out. We only had so much time in this frat house, and this was early on in Buffy, and Fox said literally, you will do this in this amount of time and we will pull the plug. And they wanted me to drop a lot of this Xander stuff, and I didn't want to drop any of it because I thought it was really funny and great. The idea of him trying to dress up as a college guy and be in a frat house was just too delicious. He has a near miss with Buffy there. He doesn't see her standing there, you see. And we plotted out literally every shot into the minute of how much everything would take, and we came through here like gangbusters, and in fact got away with a lot of stuff. Now Buffy is bored and, of course, having second thoughts about coming here. And in fact, in her little heart of hearts, she's missing Angel. And she thinks this guy is toasting her. This big drunken lout sees that there's a new girl in town. He was fun, this guy. He was a guy from Texas and full of life.
Come on, sweetheart!
Could I have this dance?
Now the one nice frat guy rescues her. They have a little dance. And he seems to be a decent enough guy, and she eventually relaxes in his arms and decides, Angel is something that seems like it can't be, and she just has to give somebody else a chance. So she's not being a slut here. Don't get me wrong. She's just giving a guy a chance and being nice and having a nice dance with a nice guy. And it seems that all should go well because of that. But of course, this being Sunnydale and this being Buffy the Vampire Slayer, all cannot possibly go well. This fella, whose character's name is Todd, actually his name is Tom, but his real name is Todd Babcock, was a very important piece of casting because you had to like this guy and you had to think he was decent and nice. You didn't want to fall madly in love with him and long for Buffy to be with him forever, but you had to feel that he was different from his slick and rich frat brothers and drunken and low-down frat brothers. And he did a great job making Buffy relax and want to dance with him. And I love this little moment here where she just sort of gives in and says, let's dance. Now, that was a big, tough sequence to shoot, too, or at least in my mind it was. And Sarah just came on and said, just roll the camera, set up 2 of them, we'll dance, it'll be great. Because sometimes it's really hard to choreograph dancing, and so you get enough of the lines on camera. And it was one of those brutal days where we didn't have any time. And Sarah just came in and said, roll the cameras, watch this. And she was magic.
Godzilla's attacking downtown Tokyo.
Of course, here, Xander making a complete fool of himself. My other favorite character on the show, whom I relate to greatly, gets himself in a bit of a pickle and is being dragged away in the background, unbeknownst to Sarah.
So have either of you seen a pair of girls here? One's about so high. Hey, guys.
New pledge.
New pledge.
New pledge! New pledge! New pledge! New pledge! New pledge!
And I loved all these near misses. And this was a nice location because you could have all these near misses of Xander and Sarah. And she's out here feeling a little blue and just thinking, and she finds some broken glass, which seems odd to her, and she looks up, sees a boarded up window where we saw a girl jump out of the window in the teaser. But before she has time to get suspicious, here comes nice guy Tom again.
You okay?
Yeah, I was just thinking.
Now the crucial turning point, she figures, what the heck, I'm gonna have a drink. And we stress and magnify our metaphors on Buffy, so I have one drink and I'm very nearly eaten by a giant snake is how we played that metaphor.
Bent.
Sent.
Brent.
Lent.
We're back in the library here, and that's a little insert of the computer. A lot of that stuff is done later. Their insert shots are done later. And anytime you want to roll camera on something that's on a so-called normal size computer screen, you have to get this very expensive, it's always amazes me how expensive it is, a $1,200 piece of machinery and man or two that come with it, so that you can shoot, for example, what you're seeing now, where they learn that there's a missing girl from the local prep school. To shoot that stuff is difficult, so we try to minimize it, but obviously sometimes you need it. And now a little moment from my high school life. So much of Buffy is based on the pain of high school and humiliation. I've often said if Joss Whedon had even had one decent date in high school, none of us would be here today. Joss and also Marty Noxon have the ability to just open a vein and run, pure pain onto the page. But also funny pain, which, I like. Buffy, obviously, there was something in her drink, and it's not good. And again, she sees this crazy thing going on, doesn't realize she's looking at Xander, and he doesn't know that she's there either. Modestly happy with the juxtaposition of the crazy sort of South Pacific humiliation going on in the living room and the darker Buffy beginning to lose consciousness. And Buffy is a superhero. And she has more strength than the average bear. So when you weaken her, I, as an audience member, become frightened for her for what might happen to her. This, in fact, is a set and is not part of the frat house. So she went up the stairs in the frat house, and now we're on a set on one of our stages. And we see mean, slick guy Greg Vaughn come in. And, of course, we think he's going to take advantage of her. I wish I'd done that shot better, but I do love that shot of her back, her lying on the bed so vulnerable and her back to us. I wish I had actually used a wider lens and put the camera back farther and had more of a push in on her. Now he is hurled away by Tom. I suppose all of you have seen this turn coming, but it is one of my favorite turns in the script, which is nice guy is actually scarier than scary guy, because nice guy is the true believer. And when he says in his name and the other guy repeats in his name, it just sent a chill up my spine. If possible, you want your Act 2 break to turn the story on its head. Our best Act 2 breaks always turn the story on our head. I think one of our better episodes we did was the Witch, episode 3 of year 1, where at the end of Act 2 you realize that this high school girl who you think is a witch, actually her mother has taken over her body, so her mother can go to high school again. You got a great metaphor and a good Act 2 twist. Very important, these Act 2 twists. You know, people need to come back from their big Foster's lagers and watch the rest of the show. But structurally, it's also important. Here, Willow and Giles are figuring out more pieces of the puzzle and learning about more missing girls. And Willow is torn between telling Giles the truth, because obviously Giles will want to contact Buffy. But if she tells him the truth, then she's afraid Buffy will get in trouble. Allison plays this so great, and all during Buffy episodes, she can never keep a secret. She hates to be told something. She hates lying and stuff. And in fact, Willow told Giles to call Angel instead, thinking that maybe Angel can help them more in this kind of situation. Further humiliation of poor young Nicky. And you have to appreciate Nicky Brendan as an actor, because in fact he's a very good looking guy, but he plays the kind of, poor schlub really well. And now that I'm looking at this shot, I don't know if I should have fought so hard for it, but that was a sequence that Fox desperately wanted me to cut because there was neither time nor money. And in fact, we took it out of the schedule, and then I shot it on the night because I had created another half hour for myself by shooting all the other frat house stuff in laborious sequence and planning out. The secret to directing in the TV game is preparation, something I no longer have. We knew we would get here with girls chained in the basement, and it is wicked cheesy. It's true. However, it works for the story. It's a sort of a classic B-movie thing. I love seeing Buffy chained and recognizing this guy that she trusted and believed in is the worst of them all. And he has the most of these sort of diamond tattoos, which are a mark of leadership. He's a big fanatical zealot. While they're fun to watch on TV, you probably wouldn't want to date one. Of course, poor Charisma is regretting her choice to try to kiss up to these college men and make that work. The big old metaphor here is, of course, don't lie to your parental superiors and go to a party and drink, because you might get eaten by a giant snake. But one of the ways we chose to tell this metaphor is, what if there was a frat house where everyone who was a part of that frat house or had been a member of that frat house was rich and powerful later in life? And what if the way they got rich and powerful later in life was because they worshipped this terrible demon? All the capes and the branding and the chalices and all of that is just part of that imagery. This was Willow's first time she really let these guys have it. And she'd always played like, I'm a little wallflower, I'm a little, I'm so scared. In this scene, she chews them both out for the way they've treated Buffy, but as a way to vent her upsetness that she had to kind of carry this secret through the whole show. And it was wonderful to see her do this, and it was really fun to direct, to get this other side of her. And it's a great thing when you have a character who's established one way and then you see another side of her. Also early in the scene, you'll notice the first time that Willow's looking in glass and you don't see Angel's reflection. And I thought she had a really cute line where she says, "How do you shave?" Which is something I've always wondered about. How do they shave? Do they take Polaroids of themselves and then shave? Here is poor Nicky, having had a very bad night, but he realizes that Cordelia's car is in fact there, which to him means the girls are still there. big nutcake Tom is getting ready to sacrifice these women. I guess there's also a little feeling in this of, we sacrifice women so we can control and keep and have our male power. And so there's a lot of this chanting and repetitive zealotry. But it's a pretty cape. It's a nice green cape. They wouldn't let me keep the cape. I wanted to keep it, but they wouldn't let me have it. Small known fact, the girl playing Callie, Jordana Spiro, was in fact in a school in New York called Riverdale, where Joss Whedon's mother was a very well-loved and respected teacher for many, many years. Again, we do little insert shots. You see that her chain in the ceiling is getting more and more loose. Charisma assumes that they're going to cut them with the big sword, and or they're going to throw them down into the pit with something. And Buffy rightly figures out, no, they're not going to throw us down into the pit, which Charisma thinks, well, that's good, isn't it? And Buffy says, no, it's not good because the thing in the pit is actually going to come to us. This was really difficult and expensive, and I realize it looks fairly cheesy, but you try creating and shooting a snake in a couple of days. He was a really interesting actor in this tight snake uniform, then with a huge tail built onto him. Jeff Pruitt, our stunt guy, had this guy hanging on wires and on pulleys and spring-loaded things so he could pop out of that hole, and we had a lot of guys backstage, running the rest of his tail around. And then some of the shots, he's just in half of the snake outfit. In other words, it just would go down to a little past his feet. And he's sitting on a little seesaw device that causes him to float around. This kind of a thing, to be done spectacularly, you really need days and days and a lot more money. Xander is about to actually get to be a man for once in this episode, which he dearly earned by being so thoroughly humiliated from top to bottom. We see Angel has become a vamp and is rather pissed that somebody may be mistreating his beloved Buffy, even though he and Buffy are having personal problems. More often than not, you use a stunt man in a suit for these scenes because you think, well, why would you need an actor? It's a guy in a big suit. But in fact, there's a lot of acting that goes on. About 50-50, we will cast an actor. In this particular case of Makita, the giant phallic symbol of the show, he had a whole way of moving his body and hanging his head that was really important and that you wouldn't necessarily get out of a stuntman. Although stuntmen brave and taking hits and falling off buildings and setting themselves on fire. Actually, the real men and women of the set. That little fight sequence you just saw upstairs was shot unbelievably fast in about 40 minutes. That was a thing we had to get out of really fast. And in fact, that was just 2 shots all cut together to make them look like 6. And here the guy is coming for Cordelia, the bad snake, and Buffy finally rips her chains out of the wall and starts kicking some major booty. Now, unfortunately, we had to, this is still part of that same sequence I was talking about that was really just 2 shots. And done nicely, all handheld, which works really well for action stuff. Got Angel and Xander doing some damage. This is a funny sequence where Xander is trying to make up for his entire youth, and he's beating on this guy, and he says, this is for the bra, and this is for the makeup, and this is for the last 16 and a half years. Because, of course, he's been trampled by guys like this, all of his life. Buffy wraps her chains around Tom and flips him into the candles and gets some revenge. The snake guy is still about to eat Charisma when Buffy and her big sword chop him in half. Now, unfortunately, we had a great sequence where he comes back up and eats Tom and says, just a little something for the road, and he actually takes and eats Tom. It was impossible to shoot that, and I won't regret till the day I die that we didn't have that, because it was really funny, and it added, particularly since there's quite a bit of cheesiness in this whole snake sequence, even for us on Buffy, who are the masters of cheese. I regret that we weren't able to shoot that. It was very funny in the script, but the night I was shooting that, I believe we were going 15 hours, and it was late and crazy, and Joss agreed that we could cut it and no one would ever be the wiser, but now you are, because you have put below these 40 minutes of your life into listening to this. Here, Buffy has learned her lesson. I think we've earned the ability to state the narrative baldly, because I think it's Joss who says, you took a drink and... Or no, maybe she says it. Somebody says you took a drink and you were nearly eaten by a giant snake. I think you've learned your lesson. I don't mind summing up a show when I feel that the emotion has been earned. And we feel that, she and Giles are on better terms at the end of all this, too.
Prodding.
That, in fact, ladies and gentlemen, is Danny Strong, who played Jonathan. And I think he was just called Student in this episode, but he went on to do many, many Buffys and even to have a couple of starring roles. And then he's a wonderful comedic actor, and obviously he represents the fact that Cordelia wants nothing to do with college boys and is, in fact, dating a sophomore now, something she would never have dreamed of doing before. He was very funny and loads of fun to work with. And this happens a lot on Buffy. A character will appear once, we'll like them, and we'll say, where can we use them later? Where can we use them later? And we used him a lot after this. This is a little wrap up at the end. Buffy looking very beautiful, am I adding? In which we learned that they never found the snake, so it may in fact be out there. At this point, we really hoped Makita would come back and we'd have a little more time and money, and he'd be even better and bigger. We hoped he'd come back and be kind of a running villain for us, particularly if we'd had that scene where he ate the bad guy and said just a little something for the road. You'll see that Xander's reading the Sunnydale Press. Of course, it's a mythical paper we make up, and we'll write something like that in the script, and then our prop person will come to us and describe and say, how do you want this to look, in conjunction with the art director. And, they have to design all the weapons and all the computer stuff when we're hunting up stuff on the computers. Here, Angel has just walked back into her life and asked her basically to have a cup of coffee, which was the thing she was suggesting earlier, so that they're not exactly dating, they're not exactly not dating, but maybe they're going to be friendly. And what she does, which I think is really cool, she just turns away and walks out. Although wondering, you see here in this shot, if she did the right thing, and then feeling, yes, I did the right thing.